All right. Thank you. We are getting ready to live stream straight to Facebook for we'll do it as a Voices Unleashed call to teens.
Mm.
Our feature for today, a Johnny out of Dayton is having some problems logging on her side for some reason. About to go live. Also, as we are going live, if you want to prepare, I'll just kind of introduce you all by name and give you a chance to tell some about yourself as well. It's Rio Queen. All right, we are official. We are live to Facebook. Oh, there you are. Yes. And we have Tiffany in the room and who is new to our circle, but not new. I feel like we've known her forever. Tiffany, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
So I am a poet. I've been writing since I was maybe, I guess I first discovered poetry when I want to say 13, maybe.
Mm,
Somewhere around there. I think 13. I was in foster care. And so I first discovered poetry with Poetic Justice, with Maya Angelou, when Janet Jackson was reciting Maya Angelou poetry. And so it was the first time I realized I can use words to express myself, right? And then also like the poetry, like Phenomenal Woman. At the time, I didn't know it was Maya Angelou. I didn't know who she was. I just knew that the poems was just captivating, right? And it
hmm.
had so much raw emotions. And then also when you're a 13-year-old girl who's in foster care, and you have all these things, and people are telling you that you're not going to be anything in life, and then when you hear Maya Angelou, Phenomenal Woman, right?
Yes.
And so, at that time I was gravitating towards a lot of negativity, like gangs and stuff,
Mm,
to find my identity, right? But when I heard Phenomenal Woman, it made me see that I could be more than just what my circumstances was. And
mm,
so I began to write my emotions, and because I had a lot of anger, right? And so I was able to express myself through words, right? And so just the power of when you can express yourself
uh,
and your thoughts and your emotions, and these words and other people can resonate, to me, was just so powerful to me. And being able to have that release somehow. Like I tell people, like, poetry and writing is therapy, and
really
so
is.
yeah, I've been writing. I do have a poetry book that I wrote like some years ago, called Poems in a Glass House. And so
Mm,
now I've started back writing. I think now, like, I have this newfound passion now for writing, and I want to, like, really embody, like, writing in poetry. So yeah.
yes, yes, that is awesome. And I love the title of your book of poetry. So, what type of poems are included in there? Are there certain themes that you think, or do you just hit on everything?
I think that was my first book. Now I'm working on my second book. So my first book, I think I kind of touched on everything, but I think the difference is from then to now is that I have grown. I think now I have empowered more of activism into my poetry. A lot of my
Mm,
poems now, I call myself a prophetic poet.
mm,
Because I write a lot of
mm.
things about activism. I was in a lot of the activism here in St. Louis, after the Mike Brown. So I have
Yes,
incorporated a lot of activism, and my point, like resistance, and us rising up as a people, and also just about spirituality and culture, like African culture, and us connecting to our African roots. So
mm,
I think that's the difference between my first book and this book, is that it's more, I've grown and experienced so much
mm.
more.
Yes, yes. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. And Miss Creole Queen. And you can prepare to bring us a poem. I'll introduce Kim and then come back
Okay.
to you when you're ready. But Kim, my friend, what's going on? Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I am Kimberly Matthews Todd. My pen name is Kim Burley, Kimburli. I am a poet, educator, entrepreneur, child of God, uh, just covered in the
Yeah.
blood. I am a published author of the book called Embracing the Journey, which is a poetic journey of life, not only my personal journey, but the journey, how my journey encompasses other people's journey.
Mm.
I've been writing since I was about 10. My writing got me into School of Creative and Performing Arts. I've been writing ever since. Um, I've been blessed to not only just write my story, other people's story. Um, I,
Yes.
I literally was just talking to someone and tell them, you can give me a word and I'll go with the word. Nobody knows. Only the people who know me know that I can do that. Um, and you and Mo is one of those people who know. If it's dropped in my
Yes.
spirit, you're gonna get it as soon as it get finished. I love what I do. I I'm writing the second book. I've just been keeping it quiet. But God has blessed me, and so I'm just grateful to be able to speak life. I never meet a stranger, from the youngest to the oldest. I'm silly. I'm lovable. I love to inspire, and so I call myself one of God's vessels. I'm one of the vessels that He uses, and so whenever He tells me to speak, I speak. He tells me to write, I write. But I breathe, bleed, and cry like everybody else. So I'm human. So the human side of me comes out as well. So that's just the simple part of me, who I am. But life is life, and so I'm that coach that I love coaching. And so, I love the babies. I'm the old woman with the shoe who has so many kids and know what to do. You know, my my A my A crew. I call them my A crew, my AEC crew. Call me Auntie.
Yes.
But this is who I am. So fearfully and wonderfully made.
How we been traveling together, all out of town together, everything, and I did not know you was writing a new book. And I'm a publisher though. I'm gonna get you. Even if I don't publish you, you didn't let
It's
me.
just there. It's just there. I mean, it's there. I just been quiet because it's already had been started, and I put it down, and I had to put it back up.
It's
And
okay.
so, yeah, we need to talk. We need to talk.
Wow.
But we were embracing the journey. Now we talking about what's in the journey and where we are in the journey now. So that's where we are. So
Wow, that is awesome. That is so awesome. Yes, thank you, thank you. And when we come back, I want you to tell more about KLT Educational Services because that is dope. But Miss Creole Queen, are you ready with a piece? We'll just kind of
Yes,
open up to
ma'am.
people. Okay, I'm ready for you.
And so the name of this piece is called The Village We Pretend Not to See.
mm,
And it's pretty much just speaking about the youth and foster care youth, young women, and also SA. So trigger warning for anyone, who have gone through SA. And so it goes like this. Brenda Got a Baby spoke about a New York girl who was molested and impregnated by her family member. It highlights the haunted realities of many living in poverty and facing struggles, left to navigate a harsh and unforgiving world. This feel this feels heavy and I can't breathe. Knowing that there are so many Brendas and Isaiahs who are left neglected, unsupported, and face systematic failures, raised on trauma so survival mode is their only life support. But I take a deep breath and sigh. My condolences don't feel like enough to Brenda and Isaiah. Even this poem feels like we, the community, waited too late to address the obvious. So you ask, what was the obvious? Nazaya Harris, at the tender age of 13, she loved to dance and sing, but was too young to understand the difference between love and a grave violation against her body. No one to teach her that those butterflies in her stomach isn't a deep connection with a pedophile, but an assault against her mind, body, and spirit. If
Mm,
only someone could have helped navigate her confusion instead of labeling her too fast.
mm,
Pay more attention when she cried out for help. Yet her story pulled on the heartstrings and revealed those secrets so many kept in the dark, exposing something painful, shame, guilt, and
Mm.
fear when speaking about sexual abuse or assault. But baby girl, it's not your fault. There's a difference between being grown and a grown man grooming a child and manipulating you. If only someone would have asked her why her small frame showed signs of life carrying inside of her, and why she was vibing a little too hard to a song she should have no emotions to. I can't help but think, what could have changed this outcome? If only one adult would have noticed or CPS took action on those five complaints, what an amazing woman she would have been. I take a deep breath. To all my wishful thinking won't change the fact that she is no longer here. And as a village, we pretended not to see. We minded our business while this baby endured so much trauma that led to her demise. I can only hope that we can look deep within ourselves to break generational cycles of silence, trauma, and advocate for change. And we can save others like Brenda and Isaiah. Poem.
Mm. Yes, 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 yes. Ooh, we so much. First of all, just speaking, bringing in the Tupac song and the Brenda Got a Baby, you know, this it, that's a song that should never go away. That's,
Right.
every generation has very
Mm.
Brenda's
And
over.
that's why I was bringing it in. Like that's why I was trying to tie those two
Mm-hmm.
together because it seemed like every generation, like you said, have a Brenda, and also how Tupac spoke about this. Like I think that song came out in 1992 or somewhere around there in the
Mm-hmm.
early 90s. And so for us to still have more Brendas,
Yes.
you know, it's definitely a tragedy, right? And for
Mm-hmm.
this young lady to lose her life, because Brenda was also a true story. I'm quite sure he changed her name to kind of protect, um, the innocence. But
Mm-hmm.
for this young lady who I was speaking about, Naziah Harris, who touched my heart and made me want to come out by my own story. Um, it's just like wow, and how she was failed by so many systems, right?
Mm-hmm.
um and so many generations of trauma that went on within her family, right? It's just it's very it's heartbreaking, and so I just want to shed light, share awareness that
Yes.
we have to do better behind our youth,
Mm-hmm.
and be more vigilant around who we have around our kids.
Yes, absolutely. And it's my personal opinion. We all know teachers need to be paid more, but I believe wholeheartedly that they need to start an incentive plan for
Mm,
if the teachers are become trauma informed in any way, mental health, first aid responder, peer
mm,
recovery supporter, that should be your bump up in income because it's everything that's going on is mandatory. It's just
yes.
mandatory that we're in contact with kids, we're working with them, we should be prepared. My mama's 65, she just became a mental health first aid responder within this week. Like, okay, she took her to hadn't been in school in how long? But
Mm,
because of doing the work, and seeing the need for it, seeing that you have to be able to navigate through certain things and be able to relate to kids. And then what do you do
mm,
if a kid stays behind after class, which I've had happen several times to me,
mhm,
and tell you about a situation? What is the reporting process? Um, and not just reporting, how do you respond in that moment? What do you say? So that you're
mm.
not further opening up the wound. You're not the police. You're not supposed to be, you know, grabbing everything out of them and taking them through a whole session. That's not it. But you have to know how to support them and know that, for you're heard, you're believed, you're loved, you're in a safe space. I'm gonna get the help that I need. I do have to report this, all of that, but
That's true. That is absolutely true. And so if you ever heard about, like, if you ever kind of do research up on her story, you will probably like this baby was like filled by, when I say from all systems, right? So
Hmm.
even like she was pregnant. On the day that she went missing, she went to school. She fell out on the floor, and instead of them, I guess she was, trying to call out for help. And instead of them, they was trying to I guess the counselor wasn't there. They was going to take her to the counselor. The counselor wasn't there. And so I was like, well, what happened to the nurse? If she was saying her stomach was hurting, she was
Yeah,
like 6 months pregnant. um I was like, what happened to the nurse? Like, didn't they not have a nurse? Then I was like, what happened to the principal? Because when I was
right.
coming up, the principal was the head honcho. So if a kid was in distress, you notify the principal.
You
No
would.
one notified the principal. Even the cafeteria lady who knew Nazaya and knew her behavior said that she acted like something was wrong with her that day. And I'm just like, well, no one asked. No one stopped to ask, like, what was wrong, what was going on, because maybe she was trying to say what was going on within that household, right? And
Yes.
so, even after the day that she went missing, when she didn't show up for school the next day, the school marked her down as being there present, and she wasn't there. And they said that they just not marked her present because normally she's always there. They said she was,
Oh, come on.
yes. When I tell you this story, it's like I think it should be a case study, because it was so many things that failed her, to where I really think, it should really be a case study of how we should not allow no one to ever to fail that, like ever to be failed like this. Like when I tell
Hmm.
you they failed this baby, she was failed from, even with the guy that was, it was her auntie's boyfriend, who was having relations with this girl, was molesting her, and not even just her, but he was a serial molester, right?
Mm.
And so even he wasn't even a registered sex offender. Like even when he had did time for another case with a 13-year-old, plus giving a 4-year-old chlamydia. He gave a 4-year-old baby chlamydia. They didn't even
Wow.
do any type of monitoring to make sure he was a registered sex offender. So
Yeah.
that system failed her as well. Like it's so many systems that this CPS failed her.
Hmm.
You know, the grandmother, which was, she was in the care of the grandmother. The grandmother didn't even report her missing when she did come. When she didn't show up from school, the grandmother went to bed and went to sleep, and just was like, I'm just gonna like report her at 11 o'clock in the morning. You go all night. How do you
All
sleep
night. How
all
did you
night?
sleep?
All day, almost all morning, and then you report her missing. Like that is
Right.
crazy. And then like with CPS, she had, her grandmother had kids taken from her previously. And then on top of that, for this sex offender to be in this household, and all of you guys knew that this was a sex offender.
No.
Right. And so it's like so many things that was just like, just she was just
Mhm.
failed on so many levels. And so I feel like God is putting it, and I'm not trying to like, bring the vibe down. But
No, this is
I just
sexual
want to,
assault month, as a matter of fact. And it's time to talk about it. And it's time to talk about it on a platform that is supposed to be for
yeah.
kids, because that's what's happening to our kids. You know, I my mother was raped to conceive me. I was raped
Hmm.
and had a child. I don't like to say a product. My mom
Right.
was a product of rape, but a result. And let me tell you, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, we can talk about it. This is a place where it definitely needs to. And then we're mandatory reporters, like you mentioned the school, but they don't tell us how to mandatory report. They don't say
Hmm.
this is the criteria.
Right.
This is what you do. Even as a teacher, you're going to the principal. Are you who's calling 241 kids? Is the principal calling? Are you calling? What if the principal's out? Then are you calling 911? There's no set guidelines. This is why it comes from laws. There has to be
Hmm.
certain things and systems put in place to say this is it. Just like, FMLA, Federal Medical Leave Act, is a federal thing. I mean, there's certain things that are universal. So being that this is a problem that is a national thing, an international thing, there should be a handbook to say,
Yeah.
click here. This is how what you do. This is who you report to. You go here. If this one doesn't, you call 911. It's too much. I've even been recently trying to help certain schools with getting their policy together because some teachers feel like I shouldn't have to be the one to report this because then if my name gets leaked or something like that, then the parents are coming after me. It
Right.
should be
I
the
didn't think
school.
about that. Yeah.
Right. So that happens a
But
lot.
then it's like you put yourself on the line.
Hmm.
And so I mean, but do they have like something to where like is anonymous?
They say yes, because that was part of my job as a pretrial officer. I would have to call 241 kids and report and make sure that, everything was in place. They were aware of what's going on, had a case number to get ready for court. So there is a way to call in and say you're anonymous, but just like many other things, a lot of people don't believe that that's true. They believe that
Mm,
things can be leaked, paperwork can easily, but
that's true.
how can you sleep? How can if you know that that's what's going on, you have to call. And then a lot of people don't realize they think, oh, I have a child's name. I can just call with the child's name and that's it, right? They
Hmm.
don't do any research. They're not connected with Medicaid, with food stamps, they're not doing research. When you call, and I know this for a fact because I followed up on cases, and I had caseworkers tell me you need information. You need parents' name and adult's name. At least if you don't have the address, like you need as much information as possible. So if it's something that a school is reporting, then that's up to the principal or the secretaries or the people
Mm,
to get all that. Don't just be making calls because this isn't like a puzzle out here in the realm of information, and nobody's putting the puzzle pieces together for you. You have to be very thorough. You have to call back. You have to know that within probably 24 to 48 hours, that's going to be assigned a caseworker. You call back, get a caseworker's name. Like everything has to be done. And it's a
and then
breakdown in the police system too. But go right here.
yeah, and then like I was just gonna say like even with Naziah, you know, in the preliminaries, you're hearing these texts that she was having with him, right? And so you seeing this 13-year-old girl asking this grown man for sanitary pads, right? That she didn't have because
Mm,
of her grandmother wasn't no one buying them. You have a house full of grown women, no one's buying this baby her hygiene needs, right? So then I was thinking like, within the school district, like I don't know, like do you guys can they have like a pantry of like personal hygiene stuff for the kids, you know what I'm saying? I mean, because it was just really
definitely.
sad that this little girl had absolutely nobody, you know.
Hmm.
Um and so she was dependent on this grown man. So to her, she saw it as love, right?
Hmm.
Because he was the only man that was showing her attention, right? And
Yeah,
then I was like, what happened to the education of educating our kids of what's appropriate? Because she didn't think that, I mean, this had been going on for so long. I think and no one was telling her any different, any better, and then here you got this man who's showing her some type of attention and providing some of her needs for her. um what about like sex education, like when you're teaching kids what's appropriate and what's not appropriate, what's
mm,
appropriate touch, because what he did was he groomed her,
yes.
the grooming stage. And then with these
Hmm.
groomers, it doesn't start with the child, it starts with the parents or the person that's supposed to be the caregiver. And what they do, they go after people to where they already have like a flawed, not a flaw, but like they can see that they don't really care about the child. You understand what I'm
Yes.
saying? So if you
Yeah.
calling this little girl fast, you talking negative about this little girl, you act like you don't
Hmm.
care, they know that she's a perfect target and that you're not gonna care about anything that he does anyway, right? You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? So I
Yeah.
don't know.
It makes them easier prey,
Yeah, yeah.
because that's what they're doing. They're preying upon them. So they want kids that may have some behavior issues, may have a broken home, or where there's a lack of communication. Not to say that it doesn't happen in all homes,
Right.
but those are really targeted because they know, just like she went all night and didn't call.
Exactly.
My mama, let her leave here.
You hear me?
And I don't know where she going and what's going on, and I haven't heard, and I'm calling. I've called the police for my mom, and thank goodness, because she had a stroke. I had listen. Yeah, we have to do more. We have to do more as a village, as a parent.
Mhm.
I was just with Charleston White, who, I don't know, do you
Yeah, I
know
know.
him?
Yeah, I follow. Yeah. Well, I don't
So
follow him, but I have heard of him. Yeah.
yes, he's normally real radical. A whole lot goes on. I don't listen to everything he says, but he came here to talk about gun violence. But he really spoke on the family a lot and the responsibility. And he
Hmm.
talked about, us just being involved and being watchful. Just like he was
Yeah.
talking, like you mentioned, your poem mentioned about, she was vibing a little bit too hard to a song that she shouldn't have been able to connect to.
Yes.
He was saying music, just like, a love song, you put on a slow music to get in the mood. He was saying, you could put on music. Music does something.
It
And
does.
it's an indicator. And we ignore a lot of times what's going on. Just like even in our suicide prevention program, we have a 2-hour playlist because I realize the kids that are suicidal, their music changes. So,
Mm.
it's something about it. It's darker. Yeah. So, but that's when you're paying attention. When you're not
And
paying
giving, and you
attention,
see the signs, and that
right.
is, and with her, she was like she did, and honestly, I believe this baby was honestly telling her story, like, and she didn't even know it, right? Because had it not been for her doing TikTok, with the younger, with the kids now, they do TikTok, right, or they do these little
Hmm.
videos, right? And so some of the music that she was dancing to and singing to was like, you can tell, it was just like, one song where she's talking about having pretty little babies and she's rubbing her stomach, and you can kind of tell,
Oh.
like, no, this is something, like, she's really believing, like, she's singing to him, like, and then, like, there's one song where she's singing Cardi B, and it's a song where Cardi B say, touch that little thing in the back of my throat, and she's pointing to her throat, like, she was just, it's just, but you're right, like, the music is an indicator, but if you're
Mhm.
watchful, you will be able to, like, see these things, right, to be like, nah, something is, like, you're
Mhm.
being exposed to something a little bit, a little bit too much.
Right. And we have to be able to keep our kids from certain things. And it involves us as well,
Right.
because we're the parent. And I like Cardi B, and I'm listening to that while I have my babies in the back. Don't be surprised if they repeat that. There is
Yeah.
their environment. That's what Charleston was saying. I want to read a comment from Rebecca Woods. She's chiming in too, and we call her Murder. She was out of Atlanta. Now I can't even remember where you living right now, girlfriend. But she said, thank you for protecting her at this point. It is never too late to help people say it's easy to go in your house and mind your business. Things need to be done, and can someone not go check to see what judge or system allowed him to be released after hurting a baby?
Mm,
That's a good
that's,
question.
yes.
That's a good question. Don't they need to be held accountable also? My
Yeah.
prayers are with you and this little girl and everyone else who has gone through their trauma. And if you want to, yeah, she's in Atlanta, Georgia. If you want to mention about your story too, because she definitely has a story as well. But all of that, exactly what I know, when I worked for the Kenton County Attorney's Office, I was over paternity and child support. So if there was a situation where the age didn't match, that was my job to bring that
Mhm.
information into the attorneys and say, hey, we have a problem. This person has been named as a father. They're this age and the child is this age. So, but I remember running into a case where on a rape case, 6 months was a sentence.
Oh,
Not even 6 months
wow.
in jail. It was 6 months probation. I'm like,
Oh my God.
I don't know. And I feel like there should be some type of um
Stricter laws.
stricter laws, some way of, of it being almost like a registry away from, because what happens is certain little pockets of the cities, it depends on where you live, it
Mm-hmm.
depends on what the judge is, it depends on everything environmental. Maybe they know this person from the neighborhood and it's a small little part of town and he got that sentence. But you can see same police reports, same charges end up with different outcomes. Why is that? Because there's so much there's bias, there's systemic
Mm-hmm.
things going on. There has to be a way of certain things should just carry certain things. It shouldn't be right across the different lines and it's you can get 6 months probation while
Yeah,
I'm doing 23 years for hitting
that's
somebody in the
wild.
face. Like it, yeah.
That's wild. But I think so to me, I think when you are knowingly dating someone or someone is within your household that you know is a sex offender, I think that they should go to jail too. I think that you should be held accountable as well because I feel like you knew that this person was a sex offender and should be around kids.
Yes. And I would qualify it with saying definitely if it's a child, because there are, and I worked with the Ohio Innocence Project. You'd be
Mm-hmm.
surprised. There are so many in our community who have been wrongfully accused. But when
Okay.
you know that this is, especially it's a habitual person, it's somebody who's raped a child, you know what I mean? There's no way they should even have been in the home. There's people that will literally connect with somebody in prison for raping a child. They had all kind of evidence, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a hearsay, but actual evidence, and then bring that person home in with your kid.
Yeah. Well,
Yes,
like in the Zaya case, I
responsible.
feel like everyone in that household knew that he was a serial or chronic sex offender. Like it wasn't a secret, that even the auntie came out and said she knew that he had gone to jail for this, and she said that she felt society gave him a second chance, so she felt like to give him a second chance. And then the grandmother, like you can see him in her TikTok videos in this house, so she can't say she didn't know. I mean, she lied under the preliminary and said that he wasn't in the household, but clearly you can see him in the house, like moving about in his house as if he had free domain, So it wasn't. So I think in that case, when you know, and this person have a history, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not even just Naziah. He was molesting even his own daughters. When I say this case is so sickening,
Ooh.
it is sickening, right? To where he was molesting his own daughters, right? And even the police department in Detroit came out and said that they failed Naziah because they had did like 2 years prior, the cousins have sounded alarm of what he was doing. He was inappropriating these kids and propositioned them to give them $20 for for fellatio. And
Mm.
they had investigated one of the kids, but Naziah's name was mentioned, but they didn't have her last name, so they didn't even bother to like interview her. Like that's how she kind of like slipped through the crack. And even Detroit
Mm-hmm.
Police Department said, yeah, we did fail this girl,
Yeah.
and it's like, yeah, like when it's so
There,
many layers to this.
there's no standard with the police with intake. I mean, literally, for me to get a report saying that this person has raped someone, 241 kids should have already been called before I have it on my desk hours
Right,
later.
right,
There's many breakdowns in the systems. There's times where people have tried to commit suicide by cop, and they don't come in and be put on automatic suicide watch. You just try to kill yourself outside with
right,
the police, and there's no system of no chain of command saying this is what this is what happens.
right.
That's what it is. It's a lot of that, a whole lot of that. But yes, Kim, you want to chime in here as well? Oh, you
I,
on? Oh, there
I
you go.
took myself, I was on mute.
Oh, okay.
But interesting just to listen to the different scenarios, and even particular with this scenario, because having been a home visitor years ago and being able to go into homes and see certain things and certain situations, just like you talked about earlier about the mandated reporter and the downfall. I've been in those cases where the downfall has been the chain of command, no chain of command, and knowing that, okay, if the administrator's out of the building, who does it fall on? Who's supposed to make that
Yes.
call? How's the response? And then knowing that we as and not all providers, because some choose to not engage, some choose not to indulge, as far as being able to see what they see or not wanting to get involved. But the other side of it is these are children that we're dealing with. And then the other side of it is these are not only children that we're dealing with, but these are also parents that we're dealing with who, guess what, went through the same situation. So they don't know how to handle, or they don't speak out because of the trauma that they've been through. They see um, the same situations, history repeating itself, generational things happening, and it's all the more reason that we have to tell our story, speak our story, but then also be proactive in knowing that sometimes we are not sometimes. I see myself, and I just, this word keeps coming on as far as a gatekeeper. And when we are the gatekeepers and we are responsible, you mentioned KOT. Well, KOT is a safe haven per se, or gatekeeper place, because the children come in. Not only do the children come in, but the adults come in. And so even when they need that, um, I've I've been led to focus because I've done community engagement, family and community engagement, and I've seen different pieces of it. And because I've seen different pieces of it, there's pieces that I can empathize with, pieces that I can sympathize with. Lord, I'm thankful that I don't look like what I've been through. But even in the point of doing that, it's the point of being able to be who we need to be, because the crisis has gotten even more detrimental and it's hitting everybody.
Yes.
Honestly, everybody. I mean, I honestly feel that, and this is my personal opinion, that there is not anyone who does not know about someone who has tried to commit suicide. Children have not tried to commit, whether it's a children, whether it's adult, or you know somebody that knows somebody. And so now it's just like I say, that you know what, we all have a piece to the puzzle, and how we represent the puzzle. Today I might be auntie, tomorrow I might be mama, next week I might be grandma, next week I might be the community person. But because I've been fortunate to see it from the different perspectives, I'm all the more reason of saying, okay, I may not be at one part, but I can be at another part. If I can partnership with you, if I can partnership with someone, if I have to even speak my own truth and being transparent,
Yeah.
as an educator, I just redid my vision board, and it was just so paramount to me because one of my students was looking at my board, and I was like, "Wow, um, he's looking at my board." And I was like, "Is there anything that speaks to you, or you that you see?" This is a fourth grader who I've basically had since he was 3 years old, and his mom is like, "No, till death do us part," because you said you got him.
Yeah.
And he said he looked at my board and he said yes, and I put it on my page because I thought it just I was in tears. But he said, you give kids hope.
Mm.
And that was a statement coming from him based upon what he saw that he agreed upon as a young child. And that's
Yes. Yes. Ooh, that's a blessing.
That's beautiful.
Yes.
Cause that means that you inspired him, right? And you making an impact on his life.
Yes. And this is another testament to working with partners. A lot of times our educators that are on the ground that work directly through the schools, they're overwhelmed. They need support. It should have never been a classroom with one teacher and 20 kids, 25 kids, 30 kids. I mean, it never. So to be able to have outside partners like KLT and us, just whoever the organization is, there's the Well, there's all kind of organizations that go in. Um, it's important. It's important that we not work against each other, but that we hold each other up and allow each other to have that break that we need and that support that we need so that we can serve these kids and feel hope. Because just like they may be with her and connect with her and feel that hope, where that's not my particular child I'm connecting with.
exactly.
So it takes literally a village of
It
safe
does.
people. so that
It
as they're
does.
moving around in our circle, that we're catching more and more of them and holding them up and praying for them.
And then planting seeds, right?
Yes.
I think planting seeds is so important, right? Because sometimes, okay, so my caseworker, and I think that I was in foster care around the time to where I can honestly say my caseworker was a very good caseworker, right? She believed in me, right? And she really worked hard to get me out of foster care. And like one of the things, after I was, but of course I moved here, and one day she kind of came across my mind, and I called her, right? Was put on my heart to call her and just tell her thank you, right? Because I do realize that you have some caseworkers who don't care, and she was
Mhm.
one of the ones that cared, like really truly cared about her job and really wanted to see me out of the system. And so I called her, I thanked her, she cried. But, and she told me, she said, sometimes I wonder about the kids that I put in foster care and how they doing. And she said, like, but no one ever really, I don't never really get, I don't know, right? Because, they don't kind of lose contact and touch. But a week like after that, she was going to retire. So I called her just in time before she retired.
Mm.
But I just want to tell her thank you, and that she made an impact on my life because she cared, simply because she cared, and that she
Yes.
believed in me at a time in my life where, because when you're in foster care, people look at you like you pretty much, the system is your parents. You're an orphan.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? And so, like, she believed in me even when society or statistic told me that I probably was not going to amount to anything. I was going to be probably school to prison pipeline, and she believed in me. So
Mhm.
I do believe in planting seeds, and even though you might not see it at the time that it's blooming, trust that it is blooming.
Come on.
Mhm.
Come on.
Yes. And this is the importance of us doing the work also, because when you have real life experience and it's
Mhm.
been hands on, you handle kids differently.
Right.
You come in, it's a seriousness there that's just different. When you can't relate, and you're like sometimes I read my poetry and I have people come up to me one on one and say, you know, it just makes me realize my privilege that
Mm.
I've had a privileged life. It's certain things that I didn't have to experience. But no, knowing that we're necessary. You're necessary. You can talk to somebody who's been in foster care and be able to know,
Mhm.
Exactly. Firsthand.
yes,
It's
firsthand.
not about you empathize, not to cut you off, Mo. I just
Mhm.
spoke this, but I said there are some situations that we have empathy for, but that's all the more reason to have partners, because
Mhm.
partners may have someone that may be able to have the sympathy rather than the empathy,
Mm.
Mm,
point of knowing that one agency cannot do it all.
cannot.
Mm.
Do it all because it is so much, and there's a need out there. And the more I just it's this confirmation. I just read a post that said when people are supporting you, it's not about it was to the point of just saying they're not jealous of you, they support you and they lift you up as well as when they're lifting themselves.
Mm.
Yes.
So we're looking at that piece, and when she just said it, we can't just not ignore that it takes a team effort.
It
Mm.
It
does.
takes a village. My village is across the United States, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
And I just told a parent the other day, hey, if I can't get it, I'm not going to stop right there. I'm going to try to connect you to someone who can give you what I can't give you, because
Mhm.
I know too many people and what I look like trying to hold you hostage for a need I know I can't meet, but I know somebody who can.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yes. This
Mhm.
has been an awesome conversation. And you know, our feature didn't come today. She wasn't able to get on, but it was for a reason, because this was something that we needed to discuss. We are having another open mic for Arts Equity Collective presents a virtual open mic. It says this AEC Virtual Survivors Ball kickoff event, which is
Mhm.
April 26th at 4 p.m. It celebrates and unites survivors through vulnerability, empowerment, and creative expression in honor of National Poetry Month and Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And we are encouraging all survivors to come share your stories of survival, courage, and strength. So it does not have to be just poetry related to that, but definitely, Miss Creole Queen, we'd want to have you back for sure,
Oh, thank you. Well, this was
here.
a wonderful kickoff
Um,
to that, right? It
listen, we
kind of
didn't even
transitioned
know.
off into that.
Yes. So I just want to thank you all. I want to just encourage the parents. I want to encourage neighbors. I want to encourage family members. Speak up and speak
Yes.
out. Like
Yes.
we say, if you see something, say something. That's real.
That is
That
real.
is real. Say something. Don't feel like, well, everybody else should know. Well, they have a family over there. They should be paying attention because I've experienced all kind of just being
Mhm.
a supporter of people. And when you hear about their stories and that there were neighbors involved that knew, there were family members that knew, like we have to speak up because we
Yes.
don't want to keep having these situations. I know what it feels like to carry a child by somebody who that was not supposed to be the
Right.
father of my child or near my body at all. And I cried for 9 months straight. 9 months straight, every single day. I would just cry and cry and cry and cry. And that is a pain that you cannot even imagine because you're thinking not only of the trauma you went through, but am I going to see the person and a
Mhm.
person that I love
Mm.
out of that trauma that I went through?
Yes. And also we have to be vigilant, right? When the people that we
Mhm.
have into our homes do
Yeah,
background checks,
Amen.
yeah.
that can be your best friend is doing background checks and knowing who you have around your babies. And
Mhm.
also understanding that, being sexually assaulted is not even just with an adult. Sometimes it's a child and another child.
Amen.
My
And,
case was another child, right?
amen.
And so, like, understanding that, and some people don't even know they've been violated because it was another child.
Mhm.
Mm, mm.
Yes, yes. There's
Miss
so many scenarios. Absolutely.
Miss Mo Poetry.
Yes.
Can I give this? I pulled a piece just to look at the piece, but I think it's a good piece to close out, Emma.
Yes.
And so, based upon this conversation, God don't make no mistakes.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
So, if you don't mind, I'd like to share it.
Yes, please.
And it's called A Child's Innocence.
Mm.
The look of innocence in her eyes. She tries to hide the pain of what she feels inside. For the smile that you often see, it's a facade to the pain inside that she desires to set free. She walks from day to day with the thought, I need to pray. Taking one step at a time, you have no idea what goes on throughout her mind. The unsaid words of things untold, the unspoken word of feelings inside she had to hold. In the innocence of her childhood, she looks like a typical child, but deep down inside, there were things in her life she had to struggle with for a while. She tries to pretend that everything is all right, but you have no idea how she had to fight. Fight
Mm.
to believe a new life will begin. Fight to believe in the forgiveness of her past sins. She encounters people from day to day, encouraging others try to not lose their way. For she knows the path that has given her peace. She knows the way that she can find release. She may not deal with things as we do. For what she's endured, no one has a clue. So when you look into the innocence of her eyes, this should be a reminder and help you realize that what we see on the outside is just a facade because what's on the inside, things are so broad. So when you embrace the child today, just remember to accept them and also pray.
That
Yes.
was so beautiful. That was a beautiful way to close it out. It kind
Yes.
of tied all in.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Absolutely. This was what it was supposed to be. So we appreciate you and just know as a community, we are supporting you. If anyone needs help, if they feel like they know something, and they're trying to figure out how to report it, what to do, call me. Seriously. Like I'm Mo Poetry. I'm 513-344-0870. I've helped people nationwide. Like let's do it. Let's do it together to help protect.
And thank you guys for having me on the panel.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you, Reverend Kim.
Thank you.
I
Thank
was
you.
supposed to see that part. Well, I guess y'all was supposed to see that part. You
Yes.
know what Zoom I'm on. So
Yes.
Yes. Have a blessed one, and don't forget, make sure you come on the 26th.
Yes, I will.
Okay.
I
All
will.
right. Take
thank
care.
y'all. Love
Bye-bye.
y'all.
Love
Bless.
you too. All
Bye-bye.
right.